Anunnaki Homeworld by Jason M. Breshears. Read by Kevin Stevens, also known as Grendel Dark. Archive 8, 2046 AD Niburu Comet Orbit and the 2047 AD Reuben Comet Group. And the world was terrified, and many cities of the nations fell in that same hour. The earth did groan and shake mightily by the power of the star of ruin. Apocalypse of Matthias 5:27. Earlier in this work, we reviewed the orbital history of the Anunnaki Homeworld and learned that the only year in history when both Niburu and planet Phoenix were in the inner system at the same time was 522 AD. Niburu was crossing the ecliptic after completing its 792-year orbit at the exact same time Phoenix was passing over the ecliptic, ending its 138-year orbit. This was the year 5760 of the Anunnaki chronology, which began in 5239 BC, see Descent of the Seven Kings, this being 144 times 40, or 360 times 16. The train of Niburu has continually seeded this solar system with debris, and this pass is no different. An immense strewn field breaks away from Niburu in this year and becomes the 2046 AD Niburu Comet Orbit Group, while another one enters its own orbit around the Sun as the 2047 AD Reuben Comet Group. The Anunnaki planet is fracturing and literally disintegrating. Its next pass in the 13th century AD will demonstrate this profoundly. The 2046 AD Niburu Comet Orbit Group stabilized into their own 434-year orbit around the Sun after 222 years earlier, breaking away in 522 AD. Their orbital cycle will remain fixed at 120 years under the ecliptic and 314 years over it. This unique 434-year orbital chronology is referred to as an epoch of judged time. The author Stephen Jones, in his work entitled Secrets of Time, exhibits evidence that many historical events are separated by cycles of 434 years or multiples thereof. 2046 AD Niburu Comet Orbit 742 to 748 AD 4636 to 4642 AM. Strewn train enters the inner system in a 6-year-long field. 743 AD. 4637 AM. The Irish Book of the Four Masters records that strange stars appeared in the sky. 744 AD. 4638 AM. The Irish Book of the Four Masters records that there was seen numerous stars that fell from the sky. As this group is made up of 2 large comets and much smaller detritus, and this Anno Domini year in 744, 186 times 4 faces of the Great Pyramid at its summit, see chronotecture, we find in Hebrew the gematria for 2 great lights is 744. Additionally, this year is the 1488th year of the post-exilic chronology, or 744 plus 744, 1488. This chronology began in 745 BC when the Assyrians deported the 10 tribes of Israel, which later migrated into Asia and Europe, descendants of these Israelite tribes settling in Ireland. 862 to 868 AD, 4756 to 4762 AM. Earlier in this study was revealed how the sum of 864, 144 times 6, is the foundation of time number linking seconds, minutes, hours, days, months, and years. Amazingly, this date is linked herein to the Great Pyramid measurement of 744 by the period of 120 years, the foundation number of the Anunnaki nerve system, explained in Descent of the Seven Kings. For example, Noah was warned the earth would be destroyed 120 years later. Foundations imply the beginning of something. All architectural projects require a foundation to begin, and this is precisely what we find. In 864 AD occurred, according to the Irish Annals, both a lunar and solar eclipse. But this is so rare as to be unbelievable, and astronomers note that no eclipses occurred over Ireland in this year. We see here how this sun darkening was due to comet transit occulting the sun of the 2046 AD Niburu comet orbit group. Amazingly, this exact year completes the 10th backtune of the Mayan long count for a total of 1,440,000 days, since the system began in 3113 BC. This is truly a foundational year, for it begins a countdown of 3 Mayan backtunes of 1,444 days each, 432,000 days, to the comet impact and appearance of Nibiru in 2046 AD, while also beginning 3 cursed Earth periods of 414 years each. See When the Sun Darkens for Cursed Earth System Demonstrated, for a total of 1,242 years to the year 6000 Annus Mundi, 2106 AD, Armageddon, and the return of Nibiru after orbiting the Sun for 60 years, since last passing Earth in 2046. 314 years orbiting the Sun over ecliptic. 1176 to 1182 AD, 5070 to 5076 AM. A monk named Gervase in 1178 AD recorded that at Canterbury, England, monks watched in amazement at the clearly visible crescent moon split in two, then set on fire like a torch. After the fire went out, the moon went black on June 25th. This was the collision of one of the 2 principal comets of the 2046 AD Nibiru comet orbit group into the surface of the moon. The impact releasing a blast equivalent to many atomic weapons exactly 434 years after 744 AD. 120 years orbiting under ecliptic. 1296 to 1302 AD. 5190 to 5196 AM. In 1296 AD, King Edward I relocates the Stone of Destiny, also known as Lia Fale, from Scotland to London, England. This was the ancestral Israelite relic from the days of Jacob, brought to ancient Ireland by Jeremiah the prophet in 583 BC, after the fall of Jerusalem to Babylon in 585 BC. Jeremiah also brought Baruch the scribe and Jewish princesses. The stone had been in Scotland for exactly 792 years, Nibiru's orbit, and like the pre-flood Anunnaki, the stone was a symbol of kingship. King Edward I had the stone set into the foundation of the coronation chair at Westminster Abbey, where it remains today. See also Chronicon. 1298 AD, 5192 AM. This begins a period of 16 years of widely reported earthquakes, comets, tsunamis, displacement of lakes and rivers, mysterious astronomical signs, plagues, fogs, and general disasters from China, India, the Middle East, to Africa, Asia Minor, and Europe. This history is so established that it becomes redundant to recall it again here. 314 years orbiting over the ecliptic. 1610 to 1616 AD, 5504 to 5510 AM. The 6-year train of debris begins entering the inner system. There are no known unusual astronomical records for this period. 120 years orbiting under the ecliptic. 1730 to 1736 AD, 5654 to 5660 AM. The 6-year train begins entering the inner system. 1730 AD, 5654 AM. Earthquake activity begins in the Canary Islands and will continue for 5 years until 1735 AD. These quakes release noxious gases that kill much wildlife. A quake at Hokkaido, Japan kills 137,000 people. 1731 AD, 56:55 a.m. From Florence is witnessed a luminous cloud moving at a high velocity in the sky, which disappears over the horizon, attended with quaking on December 9th. 1732 AD, 56:56 a.m. On May 28th, over Swabia are seen thick mists in the sky, through which was visible a dim light and globes of fire in the air, all preceding an earthquake. 1733 AD, 56:57 a.m. Influenza, from Influence of the Stars, sweeps through New York and Philadelphia in the British colonies of America. Interestingly, this year is the admission of the 13th colony, Georgia, which is exactly 1776 years after the start of the Roman Julian calendar in 45 BC. Of course, 1776 AD being the year the 13 colonies became the United States of America. 1737 AD, 56:58 a.m. Though this is a year after the departure of the group detailed here, in this year occurred a terrible quake at Calcutta, India, that killed 300,000 people. In this year, over Carpentras, France, it rained soil and earth from the sky on October 18th, 314 years orbiting over the ecliptic. 2042 to 2048 AD, 5938 to 5942 AM. The 6-year train begins entering the system. Earth in 2042 AD will already suffer from the fallout of the King of Israel Great Orbit Group, and the asteroids of this group may become meteorites afflicting the planet as well. Earth will experience all the attendant phenomena of these two groups from 2042 to 2046 AD. The impact of a comet of the 2046 AD Niburu comet orbit occurring just prior to the arrival of Niburu in 2046 AD. The year 2046 AD will be covered later in this work. This train does not end until 2048 AD, and, as we will find, the apocalyptic destruction will continue to reign upon our planet even at this time. The 2046 AD impact is precisely 868 years after its sister comet collided into the moon in 1178 AD, or 2 judged time epochs of 434 years each, 868. 2047 AD Rubin Comet Group. This group is called the Rubin Group because of its apparent theme relating to the French and Italians, and by extension the Normans descended from France, all peoples having some ancestral connection to the Israelite tribe of Reuben that migrated with the other lost tribes after being freed from their Assyrian domination in the 6th and 5th centuries BC. Following this, they wandered into ancient Europe, integrating with the purely Japhetic cultures already inhabiting the regions. This is the second strewn field that broke free of Niburu during its 522 AD pass, when Phoenix was also in the system. For 270 years, the comet group wandered until passing Earth in 792 AD. 792 is Nibiru's orbital period, and stabilized in a 555-year orbit around the Sun. The train appears to be 3 years long. 792 to 794 AD, 4686 to 4688 AM. 792 AD was the 24th year of the Merovingian king Charles the Great, ruler over Franks, over all of France, Germany, and regions of Spain, Italy, and Austria. A Christian king descended from the tribe of Reuben. According to the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, in 792 AD, huge streaks of bright flames raced across the skies along with terrible comets, flying dragons, that brought famine. Later in the year, in June, Norse Vikings, later to be integrated with the Normans, wrought destruction of churches and killed many Britons. The English scholar Albinus Alcuin and translator of the Book of Jasher wrote about the Viking invasion, This year is calendarically significant, for as it is 792 Anno Domini, it is also 3031 years after the Great Flood in 2239 BC, 1656 AM, and 3031 BC, historic countdown to Anno Domini system, was the year 864 Annus Mundi, 792 years later, being the Deluge, 144 years over the ecliptic. 936 to 939 AD, 4830 to 4833 AM. The 3-year train enters the inner system. In 936 AD, planet Phoenix passes over the ecliptic unseen from Earth. See when the sun darkens. 411 years under ecliptic completes 555-year orbit. 1347 to 1349 AD, 5241 to 5243 AM. The 3-year train begins entering inner system. This is the exact year the Black Death plague reached Europe and began killing thousands a day, as people turned a darkish purple and died miserably. The plague had already reduced the populations of China, India, probably all of the Orient, the Middle East, and Northern Africa by a third, and would affect the same decimation in Europe. Though rats aboard ships did in fact aid in contaminating ports, thus spreading the disease, this plague had an extraterrestrial origin. The people of the period even attributed it to the passing of comets. We cannot ignore that these comets were once oceans on Niburu, a formerly inhabitable world, now a prison of the Anunnaki. These icy glaciers in space contain the refuge of frozen and decayed organisms and animals that once occupied those oceans. As we will see, much of the detritus falling to Earth is of carbonaceous and organic materials. The rains of a dead world kill another. The plague was particularly devastating to France. 1348 AD, 5242 AM. As the Rubin Comet group passes through the inner system and over the ecliptic, a bright comet appears over Paris, France. Also, a pestilential wind infected the island of Cyprus with strange air, and many died of asphyxiation. The anomalous nature of this plague is found in that it was attended with an earthquake. The Black Death by this time had killed 50% of the population of Europe. 144 years orbiting over ecliptic. 1491 to 1493 AD, 5385 to 5387 AM. The 3-year train begins entering the inner system over the ecliptic. 1492 AD, 5386 AM. At the instruction of King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella of Spain, partially descended from Rubinite stock, the Inquisitor General Torquemada gave the Jews residing within the Spanish realm 3 months to either convert to Christianity or leave the country. Those remaining and refusing to convert would be killed, all their properties confiscated. On April 17th, a Cristobal Colon, a Jew having had his name altered to Christopher Columbus, received permission and 3 ships full of provisions to search west over the Atlantic for a sea route to the Spice Islands of Indian Ocean. The deadline for the expulsion of the Jews was August 2nd, the exact date Columbus was assigned to leave Spain, and from the same port that thousands of Jews boarded ships to leave the country, in Gulf of Cadiz. Why he was forced to wait until this day, knowing that the port would be terribly busy, is a mystery not explained by historians. Perhaps the secret of Cristobal Colon was actually detected by the Crown. As Christopher Columbus sailed with the Nina, Pinta, and the Santa Maria over the Atlantic in alien waters, a meteor burst with a loud crash and fell across the sky, terrifying the sailors. This was merely a fragment, an asteroid-turned-meteor, or meteorite, of the Rubin group. 411 years, orbiting under ecliptic. 1902 to 1904 AD, 5796 to 5798 AM. The 3-year train enters the inner system. This is the final year of the cursed Earth system of 414-year epochs, spanning back to the destruction of the pre-Adamic world in 4309 BC. See when the sun darkens. Planet Phoenix crosses the ecliptic, unseen from Earth, but it immerses our planet in a canopy of hundreds of millions of tons of dust, reported to have fallen all around the world in 1902 to 1903. A comet from Phoenix is seen and named Morehouse. 1903 AD, 5797 AM. A strange, unidentified lavender-colored substance rained upon Wouden, France, on December 19th. Of the dust falling upon the Earth from space this year, many scientific tests concluded that the material was from 9 to 36% organic. As these debris fields travel orbiting the Sun, they appear as giant nebulous clouds in space. The Rubin group may have been spotted in 1903 AD by the Lowell Observatory when it reported that on May 20th, it had viewed through its powerful telescope a body described later as a cloud near Mars. 1904 AD, 5798 AM. A meteorite crashed into Alta, Norway, its surviving fragment weighing 198 pounds. This fact alone hints that we are being warned from heaven, space, that a great stone will fall in 198 years, or 2106 AD, the year 6000 Annus Mundi. The Normans, of French ancestry, who were themselves descended from Rubinite and Benjamite stock, occupied Norway and today constitute many of their own descendants. In this year, America's 4 billion chestnut trees are virtually wiped out by a blight. The fortuitous discovery in 2006 AD of 4 living chestnut trees that survived this has baffled botanists. 144 years orbiting over ecliptic. 2046 to 2048 AD. 5940 to 5942 AM. The 3-year train enters the inner system. As the United States is destroyed in 2046 AD, see later in this work, a mixed population containing a huge number descended from France and Norway, thus Rubinite. The Comet group maintains its Rubinite theme. 2047 AD, 5941 AM. Over 1 million displaced Americans flood Europe and Israel, see Chronicon. And in this year, France and portions of Europe suffer strange atmospheric fallout, possibly meteorites or even a comet that enters the atmosphere and detonates, as in 1908 AD over Tunguska, Siberia. Though in 1919 AD and the decades before, when the antiquarian and critic of the scientific establishment, Charles Fort, was compiling his data of unusual phenomena, he did not have access to the truly ancient records we have found as of the 21st century. Nonetheless, Mr. Fort had reviewed enough material and reports from the past few centuries to conclude in his epic work, Book of the Damned, that 4 classes of phenomena that have preceded or accompanied earthquakes are unusual clouds, darkness profound, luminous appearances in the sky, and falls of substances and objects called meteoric or not.